There's a crow flying black and ragged tree to tree. He's black as the highway that's leading me.
Hi, I'm Kate Blechinger, and my album is called Under a Dancing Sky. So this record is a tribute to Joni Mitchell, and it's a mixture of some of her music that I've arranged and then some of my original compositions as well. My parents would play kind of her earlier stuff around the house when I was growing up. And then as I kind of got into my music career, I thought, hey, this is someone who I find hugely inspiring, you know, as a feminist, as a female musician from the prairies, and I thought this would be a really cool project to do in tribute to her, but also as a vehicle for my own creative expression.
We're not so different, you and I, both born under a dancing sky, stretching out far and wide, one eye on home, the other on the horizon.
So the record is called Under a Dancing Sky, and I chose that title because it comes from one of the originals I wrote specifically for this album. That song is called Out of Fear, and pretty early on in the song I say, we're not so different, you and I, we're both born under a dancing sky. And so I think it really highlights the ways in which Joni Mitchell and I are similar and the ways in which we're different, the ways that we choose to look at that same landscape and express it based on our own experiences.
All I really, really want our love to do is to bring out the best in me and in you too. All I really, really want our love to do is to bring out the best in me and in you too.
So for this album, I decided to pick 6 Joni Mitchell songs. It was really hard to pick just 6, but the ones that are featured on the album are Both Sides Now, All I Want, Blue, Black Crow, Ladies of the Canyon, and Night in the City. One thing I wanted to keep in mind was to try and pick some of Joni's more popular material with some picks that people might not have heard before, because I really wanted to get a sense of her whole career, her whole discography, and yeah, just give people something unexpected to listen to. Now, all of the songs that I chose have a theme of journeying and traveling across space and the sort of inner reflections that an individual has while they're making those changes and those journeys.
It's all good. I'm in the studio doing my thing.
Yeah.
Break off, shake off, chase off those stay-at-home blues. Stairway, stairway, down to the crowds in the street.
The way that I approached arranging and composing for this album, it was sort of 2 separate processes. So for the arranging process, I spent a lot of time listening to Joni's music, but about halfway through I had to not listen to it anymore, in the sense that I really didn't want these arrangements to be exact copies of her material. In my opinion, no one can sing Joni's music better than she can, so it became an exercise in just sort of having some creative freedom with her music and taking some creative license, but I really wanted to keep the integrity of the original songs. I didn't want to take them so far out of their comfort zone that no one would recognize them or enjoy them. So my process with arranging was I spent a lot of time at the piano, reharmonizing songs, singing songs over different chord progressions. And I also went on a lot of nature walks and just tried to sort of meditate and tune into the essence of each song. But I knew I wanted the album to be a really piano-driven album, which is a bit different than some of Joni's material because she used to accompany herself mostly on guitar. And I did this because I wanted the arrangements to match my writing style. And I also write a lot at the piano. With composing, I usually write the lyrics first and then find a melody and chord progression that I think suits the style.
It looks pretty to me. Night in the city looks fine. Music comes spilling out into the street. Colors go waltzing in time.
So there's 6 originals on the album as well, and they're mixed in with the Joni material. Cellophane is probably one of the newer originals and the one that I think I'm the most proud of on this album.
Here for your consideration, all my hurts raw, the healed, the well concealed on display. And we're done waiting for some kind of approval. Give us space to reign and rule. Let our passion be the fuel.
I was really inspired by an interview that Joni Mitchell gave in 1979 with Rolling Stone. And she was talking about her experiences writing her album Blue. And she said, I felt like a cellophane wrapper on a pack of cigarettes. And just talking about that vulnerability. And she said she had no defenses. She felt like everyone could see right into her. And I started to think about that and about how, as a woman in music, you often feel like the vulnerability that you share, it can be seen as a weakness. But the way that I chose to frame it was that really there's a lot of strength that does come from being vulnerable in our music. And, you know, just as Joni admitted to feeling weak or feeling, you know, unsteady, I feel that throughout the course of her career, she really was a strong feminist, you know, role model for a lot of female musicians. And she really blazed her own trail and she set her own path. She was very involved in the creation of her music in all aspects. So I sort of wanted to channel that energy, and I imagined myself as if I were seeing her perform, and then I decided to write about how this music process, or this process of working on her album, has really helped me to become more confident in my musical skills as well.
And the skies were alive, full of colors and lights, a web of stars aligned. Strangers call out into the night, unanswered in the moonlight, my lover left behind. Now in your jade lakes I see.
The song Qu'Appelle on the album is an original composition, and it was inspired by my experiences as, you know, a child and a teenager in the Qu'Appelle Valley near Regina, Saskatchewan. I also took a lot of inspiration from a poem called The Legend of Qu'Appelle Valley by E. Pauline Johnston. Basically, it follows the story of a young Indigenous man who, upon returning from a hunting trip, hears a voice in the valley that calls out to him. So he calls back, Qu'Appelle, or who calls? And he doesn't hear anything back except for the echo of his own voice. And then when he arrives back to be with his family, he finds that the woman that he was meant to marry died suddenly while he was gone. And with her last dying breath, she called out his name into the valley. So I wanted to write sort of a song inspired by this love story, and it made me reflect on my first love, a learning experience in terms of, how to be together when you're somebody who's still really finding themselves. I also decided to use the song to pay a bit of a tribute to 2 family friends who I have lost in the last 7 years, and they had a cabin in the Qu'Appelle Valley, so I wanted to write this song inspired by a place that makes me think of Ken and Betty.
So on this record, I was lucky to work with a really wonderful group of musicians, including Chris Andrew, Brett Hansen, Ruben de Toledo, Joel Jeske, Joseph Semple, Audrey Ochoa, Christine Hansen, Mallory Chipman, and Christopher Pennington.
And then I also had the awesome Paul Johnston producing and recording the album. This team was incredible to work with, and I think they were the perfect fit for, helping to bring the best music that I have within me out of me and into this record.
I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall.
I'd like to thank the Alberta Foundation for the Arts for their generous funding in helping me create this project. I'd also like to thank the Bent River Records team, my label, and MacEwan University for their support and guidance in creating this project. And lastly, I'd like to thank my late grandfather, Doug Brunskill, for helping me fund this album.